In this garage, an industry was born. Literally, Silicon Valley started here. So in this garage, they were tinkering physically. At Stanford, what we tinker with is not tools like this. We tinker with virtual reality simulations and test what they do to the mind. My name is Jeremy Bailenson. I founded Stanford's Virtual Human Interaction Lab. I'm a professor that studies virtual reality. If you think about what makes us special, what makes all of us different from one another, there's of course a genetic component, but it's really about your experiences. If you think about the top 10 things who've made you, you, a lot of those are going to be 5-minute, really intense, wonderful, and maybe some not so wonderful experiences along our journey. What VR does is it gives you this fantastical experience that could be built by any programmer to do anything. However, the brain treats it as if it were real. And so working with HP, we're designing an amazing set of experiences that really make you rethink hard issues. And one of our lines of research for 15 years now has asked the question, how are we going to use VR to solve tough problems? And the paradigm of the virtual mirror is you walk up to a mirror, you put on the goggles, you're in virtual reality, and you see yourself. We've scanned your body and it looks like you, and then we hit a button and you become a different gender, a different race, and you then occupy someone's body, you walk a mile in their shoes. VR becomes a tool to study how other people experience the world and bridging that gap between the self and others. We treat virtual reality as a medium and we ask the big question, what is a person in an age where VR is everywhere? How is this medium going to change the world?
I love that video. I've watched that probably 25 times. It gets me fired up every time I watch it. So thanks, Jeremy Bailenson, for the kind words on HP, your pioneering work up there at Stanford, and most importantly, our partnership with you. So there are a few points he made that I want to pull the thread a bit further on. One of the things he said was that an industry was born in the garage that he was sitting in. Some folks may not know this, but back in the 1930s, there were two friends at Stanford that shared a common vision. And that vision was to invent a better future for everyone using technology. So Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard pooled all of their money that they had. It was a little over $500 at the time, which given that time period, wasn't a bad chunk of change. And they started the company in Dave's unheated dirt floor garage up in Palo Alto. So their first successful product was an audio oscillator. What is that? It's an instrument used to test sound equipment. And their first customer, everyone will recognize this name, was Walt Disney Studios. That was our first major customer. They ordered 8 of those audio oscillators at around $75 a piece. So Bill and Dave were able to recover their initial investment off of one customer, which is great. So to this day, the vision that they had is the vision that guides everything that HP does, how we do it, and most importantly, why we do it. So our mission is to engineer experiences that amaze. We are an engineering company at heart, and we firmly believe in the technology as a force for good. So another point that Jeremy made was that he rethinks hard issues. And let's face it, as a society today, we face many of them. When Bill and Dave first started HP, 1939, if you remember that time period, the world was still in the depths of the Great Depression. And that only validated Bill and Dave's confidence that their company would prosper, not only in good times, but also in bad times. The original 2 guys in a startup garage grew to become a symbol of creative entrepreneurship. So for those reasons, we at HP, we feel confident in our ability to step up to the plate at this moment. We face hard problems that we're all collectively on a race to solve. There have been fault lines for years, but COVID has really turbocharged and brought many of them to the forefront. These issues, both macro as well as micro, and knowing this community of developers and creators we're all collectively wanting to solve these problems together with our creative work. So another thing that Jeremy mentioned was developers are building experiences. So you might be asking yourself, what is HP doing here at a developer conference? It's a fair question. You might also be asking, isn't HP just a hardware company? This is a perfect situation, an instance of a yes and situation. So yes, we are a hardware company and we build great hardware, but we're also building tools to enable creators and developers to build experiences. So just a few examples of that. One is data science. There's a lot of data that's flowing out there in the world, as we all know. So we're creating the tools for data scientists to quickly and effectively analyze, synthesize, and model data, both visually and compellingly. Let's look at gaming. At heart, we're all gamers, right? So I grew up on Tecmo Bowl and Contra, both fantastic games. I play them every single summer. But not only does HP have great devices and accessories and welcomed HyperX to the HP team recently, but we also have a gaming software hub that enables effective team play and rewards for all the great gaming achievements. And then VR, our vision on the VR team is to drive the most desirable, immersive ecosystem that empowers all people to better themselves. We have great headsets, of course, but we also have a software developer kit that takes immersion to the next level, which we'll get into here in subsequent slides. So if we focus on one of these tools for a moment, Jeremy said in the video that VR solves problems. In a race against time, VR accelerates answers to some of the tough challenges that we face. It's this fantastic tool. It creates wonderful immersive experiences that our brains effectively treat as real. Developers, creators are doing great work in designing experience that solve problems. Whether that's ensuring effective collaboration during times of remote work, entertainment and putting a smile on people's faces when we're all stuck at home, empathy tools to help walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, learning tools to enhance productivity, or a simple distraction for children or patients that are undergoing difficult treatment. Developers are building these experiences, and frankly, we love them for it. So for those folks in the audience, keep at it. Let us know how we can help empower you. Another line from Jeremy in the video was that VR is fantastical and intense experiences. So at HP, we really pushed the envelope to usher in the next evolution of VR. We've brought together several things. We've brought together VR, physiological sensing, and machine learning into a single platform that's called Omnicept. So it seems like I'm throwing a lot of buzzwords out there, but Omnicept truly is a groundbreaking collaboration between our scientists, our PhDs up at the Palo Alto HP labs, and our VR R&D software team and developers. It's driven by research in neuroscience, psychology, affective computing, and really leverages the work of scientists over the past 100 years. Names like Danny Kahneman that folks might recognize. So what is Omnicept? At the end of the day, it's a tool for developers to create better outcomes, more adaptive experiences across many segments and VR use cases. It's a simple and easy use SDK that you'll hear about in much more detail shortly from both Brianna, who's our product owner, as well as Jeff, who's our key partner over at Ovation. So recently, our CEO, Enrique, was quoted as saying what you're seeing here on this slide. The most successful companies of tomorrow will be those that not only push the boundaries of innovation, but the ones that unlock shared aspirations for a brighter future. Frankly, I couldn't agree more. Despite some of the challenges we face as a society, the future is bright, and it is a great time to be in this industry. I think we're only scratching the surface on what technology, what virtual reality, what gaming can all enable in society today. So let's take a deeper dive into some of these areas where HP is playing. For that, I'm going to turn it over to none other than Joanna Popper, who's our global head of VR go-to-market.
Hi, my name is Joanna Popper. Thanks, Jay, very much for the great beginning of the presentation. Really, really excited about Omnicept and everything that's happening in the Omnicept world. So I'm going to talk to you today about the HP Reverb G2. The HP Reverb G2 is a headset that we launched at the end of last year that has been doing very, very well among gamers, among location-based entertainment, among businesses. So this year was a really interesting year in the VR world. We saw the acceleration of many, many trends that in a different world may have taken a few years, but we have seen so many trends accelerating, all of which ended up having a positive impact in the VR world. So we've seen people connecting, creating, collaborating, and learning using virtual reality. In the connecting, we saw Steam VR last year in April with the launch of Half-Life Alyx hit an additional 1 million headsets. And then now, a year later, they've gotten all the way up to 3 million headsets, which is 110% growth over the last year. So, big, huge spike when Half-Life Alyx hit, but then that spike just continued, showing that people are connecting their headsets and using VR more than ever at this time. And we've seen similar trends in creating, collaborating, and learning. So for us, we came to the market, as I said, at the end of last year with a great new headset, the HP Reverb G2. This was a collaboration between Steam VR, Microsoft, and HP. And each three partners brought the best of what our company offers to the product. So Steam VR, has always been, and Valve, they've always been a huge pioneer in the VR industry. Many of the early headsets had Valve technology in them. As a group of gamers, I don't need to tell you about Valve and about Steam. Valve also brought improved optics and audio, and you'll see that both the optics for our headset as well as the audio really are huge collaborations with Valve. And then we worked with Microsoft. This is our third headset that we've done with Microsoft, actually. And Microsoft brings the industry-leading inside-out tracking and easy integration between Windows Mixed Reality and Steam VR. And then HP, of course, brings our comprehensive VR portfolio. So let me talk to you a little bit about the HP Reverb G2. What this headset is most known for is that it is a very high-resolution headset. It's 2160 by 2160 per eye. And so what that does is it provides a more immersive viewing experience, a more immersive gaming experience for you. And part of that comes from those improved optics that I mentioned that we did with the Valve design lenses. We have a manual IPD adjust that makes it much more comfortable and customized for you. Additionally, we have great audio. If you're familiar with a Valve Index, you'll be familiar with the audio. We have Hear in 3D, spatial audio, really, really, really great audio. We have a new layout and we have better tracking. We now have 4 cameras on the headset for better inside-out tracking. And then the headset is very lightweight, very comfortable for long wearing, for long gaming periods. People come out of it and say they still feel refreshed, as refreshed as they were when they went in 4 to 5 hours ago. And then we have compatibility across our ecosystem. So you can access all your favorite Steam VR games through a bridge with Windows Mixed Reality. So now I'm going to show you a video about the HP Reverb G2. And you'll see just what it is that is having gamers all around the world so excited about this headset. So I think that demonstrates the excitement about the HP Reverb G2. We've been working with gamers all around the world who are so excited to be using this headset for all sorts of games, for Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is this headset, which was actually optimized to be used on this headset. So with racing simulation, with flight simulation, with all sorts of at-home games, as well as location-based entertainment partners. We work really closely with Dreamscape and Zero Latency. And now I'm excited to introduce to you Jerome from Ubisoft. They're going to talk to you about some of the exciting things that they're doing on the at-home gaming side, as well as some of their location-based entertainment partnerships around Far Cry VR with Zero Latency, as well as a lot of the other exciting work they do. So over to you, Jerome.
Thanks, Joanna. I will just start presenting myself. I'm Jérôme Poncet, Business Development Manager at Ubisoft in Paris. I'm mainly working with external partners and on location-based VR projects. I would say that VR is not a new thing at Ubisoft. We've been working on the technology since the very early days, releasing games such as Eagle Flight, Star Trek Bridge Crew, Worlds Within, and we followed up with games such as Transference, Game of Space, and Space Junkies. And we've got new games in production at the moment. We announced last year we are working on an Assassin's Creed and a Splinter Cell game. All of these games were developed for the home VR market, so for people lucky enough to have VR headset at home. It's a growing crowd, but it's still a very small market compared to consoles, PC, or even mobile. Alongside these games, we've been developing different location-based VR games and experiences. So basically things you could try in VR arcades, in escape rooms, or even in museums. Just to give you a few examples, we've been working on Virtual Rabbids The Big Ride, which is basically a roller coaster with raving rabbits, with force feedback and so on. We've been working on different escape games. We've got 2 of them based upon Assassin's Creed and 1 of them set in the world of Prince of Persia. We've been working with museums like on experience like age-old cities or even Notre Dame VR. But that one is a very good example of good use we can do of the skills we've been developing over the years, developing in VR on one end, and of the different assets we've created for our AAA games on the other end. Just to tell you a bit more about this one, we've been reusing assets from Assassin's Creed Unity, which was set in Paris. And we've created a very short experience, like 3 to 5 minutes experience, to allow people to explore Notre Dame, which is not accessible at the moment. It's an experience for gamers and non-gamers alike. There's very little interactions, but it really enables them to be there and explore different point of view within and outside of Notre Dame.
On April 15th, 2019, Notre Dame de Paris Cathedral was nearly destroyed in a devastating fire. While it is closed for restoration, tourists can still discover a virtual version of the monument, leveraging their strong experience in historical reconstitutions for games like Assassin's Creed, or in cultural experiences like Age-Old Cities VR. Ubisoft offers an emotional journey back in time inside the cathedral. The reconstitution is the result of 5,000 hours of detailed graphic work, guided by historians, created for the video game Assassin's Creed Unity. We adapted the model to VR, simplifying the 3D meshes and optimizing the textures. Then we added life through lighting, sound, special effects, and animated characters. We even added the real sound of the great organ playing Johannes Sebastian Bach. The result delivers the unique atmosphere of the monument in a lively environment of Paris in the 18th century. Notre Dame is entirely accessible from the nave to the spire, and hot air balloon offers a spectacular flight over its arches. Shown for the first time at the UNESCO headquarters on Heritage Days 2019, the experience was also part of the 2020 South by Southwest official selection. In the coming months, it will be proposed to the public in a first Parisian exhibition dedicated to Notre Dame. And it is now available for free on VR stores.
Location-based VR is super interesting for us for different reasons. The first one being that it's a great introduction to VR to a lot of people who hasn't been able to test it just yet. As I said earlier, a lot of people still don't have VR at home, and that's normal, but I would say it's a growing crowd, but it's still not as big as consoles, PC, and mobile. So location-based VR really allows people to test VR for the first time at an arcade, at an escape room or a museum, and that's their first experience. And VR is one of these things where you need to test it, you need to try it to really understand how great it is, how immersive it could be. And that's a great transition to the latest project we've been working on, which is Far Cry VR Dive into Insanity. And I'm so glad we are finally able to talk about it, because that's a development we've been working on for quite some time now. So that's a game we developed in partnership with Zero Latency VR and nDreams. And it took us some time at the very beginning to find the right partner, the right setup to bring that iconic IP to location-based VR. And we've finally choose to work with Zero Latency VR because they have this huge free roaming setup, which is just so great for immersion. When you go there, you get a VR headset and VR backpack. They are using the latest gen HP Reverb Gen 2 on this one. You're not wired to a PC on the wall or something like that. And you have a space which is almost the size of a tennis court to dive into the game and immerse yourself into the game with your friends. It's up to 8 players. You talk all the time with your friends. And because it's VR, we are able to play a bit with the perception of the players. There's some part of the game that are realistic, some part of them where you see some surrealistic things. I don't want to spoil the experience for you, but it's super interesting, and we had some very great feedback during the playtest. It launched on the 1st of June, actually, worldwide. There's a few locations in the US, but it's also playable in Europe and Asia and so on. And it's been really a great experience. It's just a taste of what VR can bring to the table. What kind of great gameplay mechanics, player interactions we can have when we are all in that world.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
And that's it for me. Thanks again, Joanna and HP, for the invitation. I'm always glad to be able to talk a bit about location-based VR, and we'll speak soon.
Introducing HP Omnicept, an intelligent XR platform that completely changes the dynamic of how humans interact with technology. Sensors in the headset monitor muscle movement, heart rate, pupil size, and gaze to capture the levels of brain power exerted. Now, users' natural responses drive their experiences in the moment. By combining sensor data with machine learning, software developers get real-time insights to tailor XR experiences for faster and better outcomes. Across industries, HP Omnicept is powering advanced XR solutions that can adapt to each user. Redefining how we train, improve well-being, create, and collaborate. HP Omnicept powered apps help ensure the capture and transfer of data comply with GDPR, keeping user data confidential. Groundbreaking hardware meets transformative software. This is HP Omnicept, a revolution in XR.
Hi, my name is Brianna Havlick, and I am head of XR software development at HP. Today, I am thrilled to be talking to you about our latest solution that we call HP Omnicept. To start us off, imagine if you're playing your favorite video game, and when you come to a really challenging part of the game, you keep trying, but instead of actually having fun fighting the challenge, you just get really frustrated. So frustrated that you put your controllers down and come back either a few hours later or perhaps not even until the next day. Wouldn't it be nice if while you were playing that game, the game could adapt to your current levels of emotion and frustration and perhaps pop up a hint, let you know how to get unstuck, or perhaps prevent you from getting so frustrated in the first place? On the other side of things, imagine if you're a game developer. Wouldn't it be nice to have insight into your customer's experience and how they're actually interacting with your game? Well, I am here today to tell you that our team has been working on a solution for that, which I am excited to be able to share with you today. This is our HP Omnicept solution. The HP Omnicept solution brings together HP VR hardware and software to create truly user-centric adaptive experiences. To start off, the HP Omnicept solution starts with a basic foundation of the HP Reverb G2 headset you heard discussed just a few minutes ago. On top of this amazing headset, we've added sensors. We've added a heart rate sensor, eye tracking sensors, as well as a facial camera. Now, the raw data from the sensors is pretty cool in and of by itself. However, we've taken this to the next level by applying machine learning on top of that data to provide insights into the human condition. I'll talk a little bit more in the next slide what those insights are. Now, instead of just HP developing an app to really utilize the sensor data and these insights, we took it to the next level and developed a HP Omnicept software development kit. And this allows any ISV VR developers to either add Omnicept to existing applications or build new applications from the ground up, which take advantage of all the Omnicept features. Now, together with the HP hardware and the software, we are really creating experiences that can adapt to a user's experience and are much more personalized than ever before. I mentioned we were going to talk a little bit about what those insights are that HP Omnicept provides. The first insight that we announced a few months ago is cognitive load. Now, cognitive load is really how busy your brain is at any given time. By analyzing a user's cognitive load in a VR experience, we can predict several things. One of those things is brain capacity. So we are looking at how much working memory is being consumed while you undergo a particular experience in VR. We also can use cognitive load to predict performance and understand how a user is really engaged with the material and how much brain power they're putting towards a particular task. Finally, we can use cognitive load to predict expertise and how well a learner is really adapting to the content being presented to them. Let me give you a quick example. In this example, imagine a user is going through VR flight simulation training application. As a user is exposed to more and more stimulus, their cognitive load is going to increase as they are taking in all this data and trying to figure out what to do with it. However, as they master the data, the cognitive load will once again decrease because those decision-making processes and analyzing the data will become second nature. Together with the raw sensor data and the cognitive load insights, we can truly provide more personalized experiences for that user in the VR training experience. Now, I mentioned cognitive load could be really valuable for training applications. However, other features of Omnicept can be useful in training applications as well, such as our eye tracking. With our eye tracking, we could see where a trainee is looking and be able to coach them either to spend more time looking in particular areas or direct them that they're spending too much of their time focusing on things that didn't matter. Besides the training industry, we feel like HP Omnicept can make a huge splash in other areas as well, including collaboration, creation, well-being, and gaming. In collaboration, both our eye tracking and our facial camera can really allow for more interactive, realistic experiences working with teammates. In creation, imagine a designer has a new product they want to get in front of a potential customer. In VR, that designer can then see what features draw the user's attention to first using our eye tracking, or perhaps using cognitive load, they can tell how a user is interacting to their design. In the well-being space, our heart rate sensor can be used to provide interactive experiences and maybe perhaps encourage someone to increase their heart rate in a fitness app, or encourage someone to bring their heart rate down through a meditation app. And of course, in the gaming industry, we believe Omnicept can be used in both at-home experiences and LBE areas. We have a plugin that works with HP Omnicept, which allows for spatial audio, which really brings your gaming experience up to the next level, along with another feature we support called foveated rendering. Now, I wanted to touch on what foveated rendering is because it's a term that is unique to the VR headsets, and we are able to provide this because of our eye tracking in our headset. Foveated rendering essentially allows us to focus our graphic rendering power where the user is looking, providing a better gaming experience with the same graphics power. In addition to foveated rendering, we also support VRSS2 for applications that enable it. With that, I hope you can see how Omnicept can provide truly adaptive experiences. We are pretty proud of this, and now I'm going to hand this off to Tico, who's going to talk to you a little bit more in depth about our cognitive load.
Hi there, I'm Tico Bayagas, the Senior Manager for the Omnicept AI team. Thank you, Brianna, for the introduction. I want to talk today about how you can use, as a game developer, Omnicept AI, and particularly our cognitive load inference engine in your applications. And to get started here, I want to redisplay what Brianna talked about here and how this solution works, because Omnicept, it's not just a VR headset with new sensors, but it's also an SDK that HP is providing that includes these novel inference engines. And then we partner with you, application developers, to incorporate these inferences into your application to deliver new value for your customers. So it's really a partnership between HP and you as game developers to bring these new experiences to market. So we're looking forward to collaborating with you. But before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to really make sure that we understand what is cognitive load. And at a very high level, cognitive load is a measure of mental effort. So how hard am I working? How hard is my brain working right now in this particular task? And so I'm going to start with an example here. And this is a test. You will all be graded. I'm going to give you a task where you have to perform this transform, which is add 3 to a series of numbers. So for example, if I give you 1, 2, 3, 4, your job is to repeat back 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, is everybody ready? Here we go. All right. If you're anything like me, your pupils started to dilate, your heart rate started to accelerate, and your palms started to sweat. And this is a phenomenon that Daniel Kahneman reported back in 1969. And you might recognize this name. Daniel Kahneman went on to win a Nobel Prize for his research. He's also the author of the New York Times bestseller, Thinking Fast and Slow. But what he showed in this work was that as task difficulty increased, so do these physiological measures. So add 3 is the task that we just did. Add 1 is a slightly simpler version of that task. And add 0 is essentially a working memory task, repeating back the numbers presented. And we show kind of a proportional increase on each of these physiological measures with increasing task difficulty. Now, if you look on the left, you can see that over time, these signals are a little more complex, a little more nuanced. And so we're using machine learning techniques to decode the cognitive load kind of measurement from these various signals. Our headset today incorporates eye tracking and pupillometry, heart rate. It does not incorporate skin resistance, but this phenomenon was also shown for sweaty palms. And cognitive load, how might you use this? So it is a predictor of performance. And so this is Yerkes-Dodson law, which shows that the more cognitive load you have, there's a decrease in performance due to overload or strong anxiety. Similarly, if your cognitive load is too low, then you have impaired performance, presumably due to distraction or lack of engagement in the task. And so there's really a Goldilocks zone in the middle where your cognitive load is not too high, not too low, where you're getting optimal performance. And so how might we use this cognitive load inference engine to help people recognize the situations where they're most likely to make mistakes, and similarly help steer people by adapting our application towards this Goldilocks zone so that they're performing at the optimal level? I want to show a couple of examples of how we might do this. So the first is a flight simulator. I'm sure all of you have played a flight simulator in your careers, in your lives. In this example, there's a trainer that is monitoring the pilot trainee. The trainee's going through a simulation where he's got severe weather. He's gone around the runway 3 times. He's got 15 minutes left on fuel, but the trainer notices that he's still in that Goldilocks zone. He's handling this level of difficulty well. So let's push the simulation to the next level, inducing bird strike on engine 2. And so what this demonstrates is you can meet the player where they're at. You can make sure that the game is not too easy, not too hard for them by adapting the difficulty level to make sure that they're being sufficiently challenged to keep them engaged. Another example here is a medical example. So imagine if you're interested in learning how to do laparoscopic surgery. In this case, it turns out that doctors are most likely to make a mistake the first surgery of the day. So what if we could give them a pre-surgery warm-up to get them primed, to get them in that optimal cognitive load level before their first surgery of the day? And so this is an example of using VR to get people in that zone and help them perform optimally the rest of their day. And so how have we gone about building this inference engine? We've actually been collecting data across 4 different continents in the US, Brazil, Mozambique in Africa, and Taiwan in Asia. And thousands of participants across these locations collecting data across different levels of task difficulty. And we're really proud of our ability to get a diverse and representative sample from around the world in training this model to minimize potential biases here. And in addition to that, we are very proud of the results that we're getting with our models. So we have really high efficacy. We're getting a mean absolute error of 0.1, and we're really proud of those results. And we've also are trying to be open scientifically, and we've released an open data set so that you can go in and see exactly how our data was collected, exactly how our models were built. And that's available on the HP developer website. So I invite you to go take a look, and please reach out to me directly if you have any questions or would like further information. And cognitive load is really just the beginning. We're working on more inferences, and we plan to build out the Omnicept ecosystem even further. So the future is bright, and we're looking forward to working with you as application developers to really bring this new value to customers. And with that, I'll pass it off to one of HP's partners, Ovation, to share about how and why they are integrating Omnicept into their solution.
The fear of public speaking is deep-rooted and widespread. Common wisdom has been to practice in front of a mirror. Well, that mirror is being replaced by the virtual reality screen. Everyone has something meaningful to say, and our goal at Ovation is to give people the confidence to say it. One of the things we've always struggled with is when are they ready to translate from the virtual world to the real world? Omnicept, it provides us with this extra layer of information to make sure that our software is actually taking their training to the next level. With Omnicept, you can see all sorts of different analytics that are provided. The user can go through our analytics menu and they can see things like how their heart rate changed over time throughout the course of their practice speech, how their cognitive load changed over time. These metrics in combination finally give us the confidence to tell these users, you're ready. You're ready for the real world with this speech that you've been working so hard on. Integrating the Omnicept SDK into Ovation was incredibly easy. They have a developer portal that helps you get the SDK into Ovation was incredibly easy. They have a developer portal that helps you get the SDK fully implemented. The time it took, HP is iterating on their technology and their hardware at an incredible pace. They're adding all sorts of different features that us as developers really, really want and can take advantage of. And I think once customers get their hands on the hardware and the software that takes advantage of the new features in that hardware, they are going to see that virtual reality has arrived and is ready to fully deploy within their organizations.
Thanks, Tico. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Marshall with Ovation. And as you just saw in that video, we're extremely excited about some of the things that Omnicept and the biometrics and all the other features with it can do for Ovation in terms of extending its features and making things possible within the software that were impossible before. And I'm going to get into that, but first I want to give you some context for the Ovation software if you haven't heard of it before, sort of let you know what the features are, and then we can talk about how Omnicept improves those. So we like to use the analogy when talking about Ovation that just as pilots use flight simulators to first learn how to fly and then maintain their skills, so too should speakers use Ovation when learning a new speech or when learning how to use, for example, speech tools properly, a handheld microphone or slides that you shouldn't stare at, but just reference and then shift your attention back to the audience. And while flight simulators are nothing new, they've been around for decades, a public speaking simulator is new. And why is that? Well, certainly the demand has always been there. If you consider the millions of people who struggle with public speaking anxiety, including myself, or even organizations that simply need to nail a sales pitch for a prospective customer. So the demand has always been there, but why no supply? I think that's because the technology simply wasn't advanced enough to provide the type of immersive experiences needed for a public speaking simulator. And we've now reached that, particularly with the Omnicept and the incredible resolution within that headset. You can now feel as if you're standing in front of a virtual audience of real people in a virtual venue in delivering a speech. You can feel as if the confidence and the skills you're gaining in that virtual world are going to translate to the real world. Right, and so let's jump right into how Ovation is able to do that, and then we'll talk, as I said, about some of the things that Omnicept makes possible. So who should be using Ovation? Who does use it, and who should be using it? Well, schools and universities use it quite a bit. For example, career services offices, communication departments, business schools, startup pitch practicing, those sorts of things. Enterprise departments, sales training, manager training, the learning and development departments, and really anyone. I would bet that you use communication skills in your job, and I think Ovation could help you with that. All right, so I want you to imagine you have an Omnicept on your head. You've launched Ovation on your PC, and you're ready to start using the software. First thing you're going to do is you're going to select one of our virtual venues. There's 15 in the software, and I'll just go through 4 of them here. There's our boardroom, a lecture hall, say in a college or university, hotel conference room of various sizes, and a large theater. Now, in this particular venue, there's 2,500 audience members. And speaking of audience members, in Ovation, these are real people. What I mean by that is they are folks who walked into a giant camera array and had their likeness scanned into a 3D model. And then we take those 3D models and animate them to pull out their cell phone and text, to scratch their leg, cough, sneeze, and even fall asleep. And these audiences can be adjusted in terms of their size in that venue, what they're wearing, and even their attitude. So you have your venue, you have your audience in front of you. The next thing you're going to do is choose the speech mode, how you're going to practice. There's 2 major speech modes in Ovation. One is quick prompt, and you can think of that as Ovation showing you a prompt or a question, and then you getting a set amount of time to answer that. Ovation comes with hundreds of these categorized in dozens of different categories, and organizations can add their own if they want to train on a specific topic. And then you can just get a single prompt at the beginning of your speech, or you can string them together to create, say, for example, a full interview. And you can use this particular mode to learn to improvise and think on your feet. That's perfect for that. And then the second one is custom speech mode. And this is what you're going to use if you want to practice a upcoming real world speech or just work on your general presentation skills. And so you can import in your PDF files, your Word documents, your PowerPoint files, and they will show up on the virtual objects inside that virtual world. So for example, that note card on the bottom left there is showing the text from a Word document. The slides on that laptop on the bottom right are showing the PowerPoint file, and so forth. And so you can arrange these venues exactly the way you want it to prepare for the speech that you have upcoming. All right, you have your venue, your audience, you've selected your speech mode. Now it's time to deliver that speech. And in Ovation, we record that process. What you're saying, the audio, of course, but also the actions you're taking, how you're moving, what your audience is doing, all of that is recorded, and then you can play it back and watch yourself from a third-person perspective and sort of evaluate visually how you did. And then you can take that recording and share it with anybody on the Ovation platform who can then play it themselves inside their own copy of Ovation. Or you can create a traditional video of that and share that with family and friends on YouTube or however. Now, while you're delivering that speech, Ovation is training you in real time in 3 main categories. We have gaze, voice, and hands. I'll talk about one of the major features under the gaze category there in a moment. Just pull one out of voice here, and that's a fan favorite, which is filler words. When you're speaking in Ovation, if you say like, you know, these common filler words, they'll fly out of your mouth in front of you. And it's amazing how effective that is. When, say, for example, a student keeps saying like, they see that word coming out and then pretty quickly they stop it. Now, in addition to training you, we are also capturing hundreds of analytics about your performance in extreme granular detail. And you can go through our analytic menu and look at all of those, but we also take those analytics, one or more, and produce a grade from that, which is easy to read and understand. In this case, the average filler words per minute is then used to determine your grade called avoid overuse of filler words. You can see that percentage that you got on that speech and determine if that's something you want to practice in subsequent sessions. And so that's a whirlwind tour of Ovation. Now let's talk about how the Omnicept improves Ovation. And that's these 4 main things here is eye tracking, the biometrics, which is the cognitive load and the heart rate that we get from the headset, and the face camera. Jumping right into eye tracking here, there's the gaze training feature called speech tool staring. The idea here is to tell you when you're staring too long at, say, a note card in your hand, your slides, or in this case, a teleprompter, and tell you, hey, look back at your audience, make eye contact with them instead. With traditional VR headsets, this feature is absolutely impossible because we have no idea where you're looking at in that virtual world. which you can see here on this image, that red line and the red target with head tracking, that's where us as developers would have determined you're looking at that woman in the front row, when in fact you're reading the 6th line on the teleprompter below. So really important and huge innovation in VR headsets that we're extremely excited about. On the right-hand side is a similar idea. In Ovation, when you're delivering a speech, we can create a 3D heat map from green to red in 3D space, telling you where you looked. On the top one here, you can see that it seems as if the person just scanned from left to right in the maybe 2nd row of that audience, when in fact, they looked all over the audience, front left, front, back left, all over the place. And only an eye tracking headset like the HP OmniCept is able to tell us that. And then there's the biometrics of cognitive load and heart rate. And this takes a second to unpack, but this idea of real world ready is something we've been toying with in Ovation, which is when can we tell someone who's using Ovation, hey, that's all this practice you've been doing, you're ready to now take that and deliver that speech in the real world. You're real world ready, in other words. And before the OmniCept, we would say, give a certain number of practice speeches in the software and make sure that your average grade for those practice speeches was above a certain percentage. And when those two things were met, you're real world ready. With OmniCept, we have a lot more confidence in this because we can determine whether they can consistently repeat that performance and whether they have steady nerves. So to expand on this a little bit, is the delivery mentally strenuous? Is it not mentally strenuous, I mean? Has it been committed to long-term memory? Can they even improvise a little bit because of how well they know the speech? That sort of falls within the consistently repeatable idea, and then cognitive load can tell us that. And also, are they looking at audience members in Ovation and having some heart rate spikes? Is the countdown at the beginning of a speech causing them to have some heart rate spikes? Or are they now, after giving a bunch of practice speeches in Ovation, have they sort of steadied out there and they have steady nerves? And so these two data points really give us a lot more confidence to tell them they're real world ready. And then on the right-hand side, when our customers deploy Ovation inside their organizations, they typically have a facilitator. Maybe that's a professor or a library attendant or somebody in the learning and development department in a corporation. And VR is relatively new, so someone comes in and they show them how to put on the hardware and how to use the software. In this case, we can show them in real time the cognitive load data coming from the headset. And the facilitator can look at this and say, okay, am I giving them too many instructions at once? Is the cognitive load spiking? Are Ovation's training features causing them to be overloaded? Or are they checked out? Is the cognitive load very low? They're not focusing on this. They're not sort of present. And so they can adjust their facilitation based on this data. And then finally, the face camera with the OmniCept headset will give us entirely new sorts of data that we never had before. Expression analytics. So we could tell the user, hey, did you smile during your introduction? Or more broadly, what percentage of the speech did you have a positive, neutral, or negative facial expression? And then they can match that up with the content of the speech and see if that is how they want to come off. And then there's the avatar I mentioned. When you're playing back your speech in Ovation, you can look at your avatar. And if we can drive the mouth movement of that avatar to be the same as yours when you were delivering that speech, that improves the fidelity and gives you some more information to work with when evaluating it. Right? So some really incredible things that the OmniCept brings to Ovation that we're excited about. And all of this is available now if you want to try Ovation and you have an OmniCept headset. So thank you very much. If you're a developer who's interested in working on things like that, please contact us. Thank you very much.
So decades ago, one of our founders, Dave Packard, stated, "The betterment of our society is not a job to be left to a few. It's a responsibility to be shared by all." So our leadership, our team at HP, we have that same commitment to ensuring that we as a company carry on the legacy of our founders with our technology. And hopefully over the past hour, you got a glimpse of that. So Bill and Dave, they were businessmen at the core. They weren't necessarily idealists. Their number one priority, like many folks in this audience, was always to ensure the survival of their company. But they also believe strongly that the purpose of any organization and the profits that we achieve was to enable the company to contribute to the growth and prosperity of every community where we do business. This is a classic example of yes and, not one of either or. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to our keynote over the past hour here. I would like to invite you to join us in our breakout sessions to learn a lot more about what our HP Labs team is up to, what our virtual reality team is up to, our gaming team, and probably most important for this audience, what our developer partners are up to and the cool stuff that they're creating with our technology. We have a virtual booth, we have a podcast, it's going to be great. Please come armed with as many questions as you have. So thanks for your time, enjoy the rest of GDC, and let us know how we can help you create a better future.